The Wellness Show, Episode 27.
Welcome to The Wellness Show, a podcast on health and wealth. I'm your host, Tyson Bannigan, the founder of the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy. Join me as we get the latest insight, tips, and strategies from wellness providers, coaches, and successful, heart-centered entrepreneurs, and much, much more. So welcome to the Wellness Show. I'm very excited today to have Lisa Murray on board and talking about business from a very creative aspect. And in this call, what you'll find is we are going to see our lovely faces almost frozen. But we did want you to get an idea of who we are because most of this is going to be just in sound, not in video. But on this call, you're going to learn many great things about how to bring some fun and joy in your business, some tips on access consciousness, and don't forget, this should be a lot of fun. So enjoy the call. We had lots of fun. We hope that you will have lots of fun as well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So welcome to the show, everybody. I'm very excited to have Lisa Murray on the call today. And we're going to talk about business. And she's from Queensland, Australia, one of my favorite places on the planet. She's founder of the Creative Lab, and she's a business mentor and writer. So Lisa, welcome to the show.
Hi, Tyson. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me here today.
Yeah, it's really great to have you on board. I'm quite excited.
Yeah, I wonder what adventures we're going to have, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For those that are watching the show on YouTube, we hope to have pictures of both of us up there, but we had to take the video down because for some reason the link between Australia and Canada doesn't want to behave itself tonight. But anyway, getting back to what's at hand. So Lisa, tell me a bit about being the founder of the Creative Lab. What's that all about?
Yeah, so I started Creativity Lab because I was very interested in how people had ideas but didn't create them, basically. And, and whether it be in your business or in your personal life or for an actual creative project, like something art related or whatever, I really realized that most people don't have a way of moving forward with their creations. And I was very lucky. As a child, I was brought up to be able to create, like I was taught to create things. And so I literally started it from that space of, well, what if I would just, teach people how to create whatever they want to create? And, that sort of beginning idea has taken me all around the world. It's been very fun.
Well, that sounds great. Yeah, I mean, I'm one of the people that has got way too much creativity going on. It's one of my major gifts. So I almost get overwhelmed by too much creativity. But yeah, I can see helping people become creative and be able to, bring it into the physical manifestation could be really quite a gift that you can offer people to help them do that.
Yeah, look, it's interesting because, of course, there are the people like you as well who come along who are like, I've got too many ideas and what do I do with them all? And, one of the tips that I tend to give people is ask all of your ideas, well, which one of you can move forward the fastest today? And just asking that question actually allows some awareness to come of which is the thing that you can play with that's actually going to create the greatest difference.
Yeah, I like that. And actually, what I'm trying to teach myself to do, I'm trying to teach myself not to do, because if you're a creative, you don't need to do. You've got way too much stuff happening, right? It's actually more like being. I love that question. Which of all the things that are possible in this moment, which would like to come forward? And I know I'm asking the question, and which one could actually make me some money to pay the bills?
Yeah. And what if it could make you money beyond paying the bills?
Absolutely. And even more.
Yeah. And it's interesting because sometimes, there was a point last year where I had something wrong with my head. Two of the bones were a bit too close together, and it was causing me quite a lot of physical difficulty. And I started each day, rather than thinking, okay, I've got to work all the time like I normally would like to, because it's fun for me to create. I literally started each day by going, okay, what's the one thing I can do today that will create more money with ease? And every day I would do that one thing, whatever it was. And it might take me, 5 minutes or half an hour or an hour, whatever. And that was pretty much all the work I did for a month. And I had my biggest month ever that month.
I love that. I know that intuitively, but, I have to say,
Yeah.
I'm so addicted to having, trained myself to become an academic, which was counter to my whole personality. I somehow have this false belief that at least unless I'm working hard and doing, I can't possibly be successful financially or any other way. I know it's ridiculous, but it's interesting how we do get addicted to these programs that we're taught.
Yeah, look, it is, and what I know is when we tap into our body and really allow our body to contribute to our creations, we can start to dissipate that. And how I know this was I had severe burnout going back about 8 years ago, and I literally couldn't work as much. And what I realized was any time, so there was the time just before Christmas, and there's been a time quite recently when I was just so tired, my body was just really tired. And all of the times when I couldn't actually physically work as much, I've always made more money. And so then it actually becomes what I would call blisscipline in terms of stopping yourself from working and literally asking a question that's going to allow you to move things forward the fastest.
I love that. Blisscipline. I'm writing that down. Note to self. When in doubt, play.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. And I think for a lot of people, they actually don't know what is fun for them, what they would like to play with. When I had the burnout, I'd come out of corporate and quit my job. And the intuitive that I'd gone to see to say, hey, what am I going to do with my life now? Because I knew I wasn't going back to corporate. She was like, well, what's fun for you? And I actually didn't know. And that was terrifying, actually, because you go to this space where, your life has been sort of laid out for you. You go to work, you come home, you're tired, you go and have a few drinks with your friends. And then all of a sudden, all of that wasn't there. Or not all of it. My friends were still happy to drink, actually. But it made me really look at, well, what do I love doing? And I think it's really important for all of us, because where we actually create very dynamically is when we have space, when we actually have the space to create. It's not about the time to create, it's about the space to create. And I've, over these last 8 years, discovered so many different ways where I actually get to create that space so that I can create with a lot of ease. And I really do blisscipline myself into going and playing rather than continuing to work nonstop, because I love to work. It's fun for me, as I suspect it might be for you.
Oh, yeah, it's addictive. I mean, I could sit at this desk. I've been here. I had my walk at 6 o'clock in the morning, and here we are. It's 5:28 my time. It's nearly 12 hours later. Still glued to the desk. I've got up, had lunch, maybe got out, sat in the sun a bit, but really haven't done the things that I love to do, which is be in nature. I did have my, 45-minute walk. But yeah, there's somehow I find the whole day I'm glued to this desk. Caught up with busy, silly work, and I'm trying to loosen the chains and bring more fun. And I actually intuitively know what you're saying is so true, but I somehow have not been able to allow myself to do that. And I don't want to do the path that you've taken, which is to do the burnout, right, where you literally are forced to stop doing in order to become and be. So yeah, for all of you people out there that are close to burnout, just stop, please.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And, look, I want to say a couple of things about that, because, when I had burnout, I had no short-term memory left. Someone would say something to me, and I'd be like, what? And if they said to me, even like when they asked, did I want chocolate, which for me at that time was like, if you offered me chocolate, that was a definite yes. And I would just look at them blankly, because I literally couldn't remember the thing they'd said to me 10 seconds ago. So what I'm going to say is burnout is not a pretty thing. And if you're going down that path, the sooner you put in place ways to stop, ways to play, ways to actually give yourself space to do nothing, the better your life is going to be over the longer term. It took me about a year to physically get over that. And even during that year, I remember being so obsessive and so addicted to the whole idea of working that I'd be saying to my acupuncturist, but I like working, and why can't I work? And he's like, you're going to end up with chronic fatigue or something much worse if you don't stop this. And I must admit, it pretty much took him to scare me before I really started to look at, okay, so this is verging on insane now, you know. And so you've got to look at the insanity of what you're creating, because we're taught that work is this marvelous, wonderful thing. And it is, and it can be in moderation if we're doing things that we love. But when it's literally just sitting in front of the computer and doing the next thing, the next thing, the next thing like a robot, that's actually not a joyful expansion of your living.
No, it's not. You know, it really brings to mind, some of my heroes that, that are very creative in the way that they've done it, and where they have divided up their day, where they're doing, 1/3 being the writer, 1/3 being the sculptor, 1/3 being the inventor, for example. And when the clock hits that 1/3, they're out of there, and they actually have 3 different stations or 3 different workshops to work in. So I know there's others that have figured out techniques to allow themselves to be creative in multiple ways, right? And not get stuck into the just doing, and the diminishing returns that we get ourselves into. So yeah, I love what you're saying. I think that this is probably the biggest addiction of our culture, certainly in North America, that we need to deal with, is the addiction of work, that somehow we have to work hard in order to succeed. It's a biggie.
Yeah, it is. And one of the things that I find I ask myself is literally, what have I made so vital about working? Because
that sounds like access consciousness to me.
Well, there's a little bit of that in there, yes, because, and I'm very grateful to Access, actually, because that was one of the tools that I used to get out of the burnout. When I literally couldn't go any further with what I would call the natural therapies, I found Access, because I was like, there's got to be something else, because I'm not going to live like this for the rest of my life. And because my body still ached nonstop a year later. And I found Access bars, and I'm very, hugely grateful for that, because it truly did change my life in so many ways. Because I think a lot of the work obsession also comes down to overthinking.
Oh, absolutely.
And when you do Access, you learn to get out of that space of overthinking and actually much more into that space of being. And of course, being isn't not doing. For a long time, I resisted being, because I thought that if you were being, you weren't doing anything. And that's not actually true.
You must be lazy.
Yeah, that one. Well, it's funny, because if you're brought up with a strong work ethic, which I was, and I suspect you may have been as well, then, you just think that that's what you do. And even now, because I don't have any set office hours, then I can pretty much choose what I do every day, and I do choose. I make a point of choosing. I literally go, hey, you've been at that computer for 3 hours now. What are you going to do now that's different? And I do talk to myself about this, and I do ask myself, okay, what's next and what's different? Even this morning, it's Saturday here, and I'm probably still going to do a little bit of work today, because I've got a few projects that I'm really excited about. But I've been out on the river for a paddle, and I'm going to talk with someone after I talk to you. So there's all these different things that, if we just sort of intersperse those things that give us more space with the things where we're, madly creating on our computers, it creates a lot more. And, for me, I've also taken up painting, because I found that I needed something beyond everything. Because when I write, it's on the computer most of the time, although sometimes I will handwrite, because that gives you access to a different part of your brain. But this thing of just having all these diverse ways of creating actually allows for a much richer life, and it actually allows everything to move forward much more ease than if you actually just work. We actually kid ourselves that the work is the thing that creates the forward movement. It's not the work, it's actually the spaces between the work.
Yeah, I think you're right. As an artist, and I haven't been an artist or allowed myself to be an artist, which is a terrible thing to say, that divine flow of rubber time that stretches to infinity, or sacred time, when you're allowing yourself to have that, be in the divine flow and let the energy come through in creativity, then there is no time, there is no structure, there just is being and allowing it to come through. And it's so effortlessly, and guess what? It's fun. It's fun. So you are an Access person. So, one of the things I think would be very useful and you started to talk about it a bit, is, we do have these choices, and you were talking about choices, and that's one of the bases of access, is you do have a choice in every moment. And so maybe you could do a little bit of access for people that are still going through this, this addictive cycle.
Yeah, so you mean you'd like me to run a couple of clearings? Is
Yeah,
that what you're
why not?
asking?
I mean, I think that would be very valuable for
Sure.
everybody on the call, don't you think?
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so let's start this. So how access works is you ask a question that brings up the energy. You don't have to go to the logic of all the answers of it, although you can. Sometimes it just comes in your head anyway. And then I run what's called the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement, which sounds like just gobbledygook, but it works really well to actually clear the energy on the thing that we've just asked the question about. So that's how the basics of it work. If you want to know more about the clearing statement, you can go to www.theclearingstatement.com. Now, let's see, for all the people, so let's just go with, what have you made so vital about being addicted and obsessed with work that stops you from having the choice of creating? And everything all of that is, would you uncreate and destroy it all, please?
Absolutely.
Tons, a gazillion, right and wrong, good and bad, POD and POC, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Yeah, so what have you made so vital about never being present with your body that stops you from moving to the next adventure when it actually that's really what you like to do? Because your body will actually tell you. Your body will go, stop sitting in this chair, I'm done with this chair. And what happens is we go, no, but I'm doing my thing. Shut up, body. And it doesn't actually work very well. So what have you made so vital about ignoring your body and ignoring your body's signals that makes you the insane workaholic you truly be? And everything that is, would you uncreate and destroy it all, please?
Yes, I will.
The godzillion, right? Wrong, good, bad, POD, POC, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Yeah, because actually what I found is when I really just asked my body to tell me, hey, body, tell me when it's time to do something different, it's really clear. Like it's like it gets all wriggly and it just says, okay, it's time to move now. And, if I'm hunched over the computer for too many days in a row, it's like, well, I don't want to go near the computer today. So you've got to be willing to really connect with your body as part of all of this as well. Because when we do that, and those times when my body has been really not willing to work, it's been such a gift. And that's the other thing about this, I think, is we tend to make our body wrong. Like, the burnout, I definitely made my body wrong. With my head thing last year, not so much. And when I was just tired, I was like, okay, body, I get it. You'd like something else going on here. And so the more grateful I become for my body and its contribution to everything I'm creating, the easier the creation becomes.
Yeah, you just gave me a big aha, and I thank you ever so much. I have a past life and this life as being an environmentalist for 30 years, and really was around the sacred connection between land and people. And I've written many things about that topic, and that is, when we're alienated from nature, it's because we're alienated from our own inner nature. So, from an access point of view, why would we allow ourselves, or what do we think we're getting out of putting our bodies in a prison, right? And denying its freedom? Is that not the truest addiction of separating ourselves from the living planetary life form of which we're a part, and causes the very alienation of our culture that's got us into so much trouble? So it's like a multi-layered problem that we're talking about. This is not just a personal dilemma. This is a social, cultural, and planetary problem.
Look, absolutely. And, I think that the more we've built big cities, the more we've built, the skyscrapers and the offices where you've literally got no connection with the earth, because now, I look out on a beautiful view of like a little lake and, a national park behind us and things like that. And a lot of my life, I've been able to create beautiful views because I did have that connection with nature as a child, which I'm very grateful for. And what I notice is when I go into a lot of big cities, the people are very disconnected from their bodies, from themselves, from each other. And if we were actually to invite that connection back in by literally just acknowledging the trees that we're walking past, and the feeling of our feet on the planet, even if we're wearing shoes, acknowledging all of those things actually allows more space into our world. It's like we make ourselves into this tiny little contracted bundle of stress rather than actually going, well, what if we expanded out and we included the trees and the birds and, all of the different animals? Like, quite often now, birds will come and land on my windowsill, and then they see me and they're kind of surprised. And it's because I'm being so much space. And this is what's possible when we actually expand that connection rather than, make it very contracted and stressful in terms of what we're being and what we're creating in the world. I would love to see people actually have more awareness of this, because it makes a huge difference to how fast you create, how much ease you create with, the joy you create with, so many different things it makes a difference to.
Wow, that's really great. So is there a statement that, from Access that could open us up to this infinite possibility in each moment?
Yeah, so let's go with this. So, and this one is slightly different to the clearings I was running before, but you can add the clearing statement to it. So what energy, space, and consciousness can you and your body be to have communion with the earth and the magic of infinite possibilities? And everything that doesn't allow that, would you uncreate and destroy it all, please? Times a godzillion.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So you can run it with or without the clearing statement. Just asking the question, what energy, space, and consciousness can I be for my body and I to have total, you can literally just go for my body and I to have total ease with our communion with the earth and the creation of infinite possibilities. And like just asking that opens up a space, and you can sense that now as we're talking, right?
Absolutely.
And so like a lot of people love affirmations. And, that's where I started when I was about 14. My parents took me to positive thinking, and I learned to do affirmations. And I was always really frustrated because they never seemed to quite work well enough for me. And when I came to Access and I discovered this way of, asking the questions that included the energy and the space and the consciousness that would truly be, I was so delighted, because all of a sudden it was this expansive energy rather than that thing of my head, because I'm a bit of a head tripper at times, as a lot of us who overwork are. But my head would always be going, but that's not true, whenever I was doing an affirmation. And so this way of playing with it actually invites a different space that feels much easier for me anyway to slide into and enjoy.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I do a deep clearing protocol, which people do for 21 days, particularly those that, have got themselves into trouble and close to burnout, and therefore they have entities and intrusions into their bioenergy field. So the deep clearing has two aspects to it, somewhat like Access consciousness, where you're clearing what you no longer want or what no longer serves you, or all that is no longer beneficial. And then once you have the null space, or the center of the vortex that you've created by clearing, then you install what it is that you do want. So it's making room for infinite space in that moment for you to be the best that you can be, to let go, and then become.
Yeah. I think when you say that, that's one of the things that really for all of us, whatever way we're going about this, really it's a journey towards being. It's a journey towards being who you truly are and having the space to literally just be in the world rather than always be in the future or in the past or, disconnected from your body and disconnected from everything around you. It's quite a gift as you move towards it.
Yeah, do you have any tips around that? I think for most people, being in the eternal now and being quiet and just dwelling in the infinite possibility of the now, for most people, I think it's overwhelming. I mean, and being quiet is just not something that we're used to. We go to, maybe we go to India and study meditation, or we do whatever, but it's not sort of something that we've ever learned unless we're looking for it. And then so many times when when you're gathered together and there's silence, somebody wants to jump in right away and fill it. So that's another form we have, right?
That's what it reminds me.
Something.
It reminds me, I was in New Zealand a couple of years ago, and we went on a night walk in one of the forests where the really big kauri pines are. And it was incredible. But the guide literally wanted to talk nonstop. And there were some other people on the tour who wanted to talk nonstop. And he goes, okay, we're going to have a minute of silence. And in my head, all I could think was, what about an hour? Because for me, the space and the silence was a really beautiful thing. But for a lot of people, it's not, and they do want to fill it. So let's run a clearing first of all. So what have you made so vital, valid, real about never being and always doing that stops you from having the space, the peace, the ease, and the bliss and beauty of you? And everything all of that is, would you uncreate and destroy it all, please?
I love that. So I'm going to ask you to turn a corner.
Hold on a sec. Just
but I know that you're a business coach. And so I love this stuff here. I think it would be really helpful because this is your, how you present yourself as a business mentor and a writer. How does this help you in your business? I mean, I get it for creativity. I get it for lightening up and having some fun. I get it for stop doing and learning how to be. I get all that. But for the person who's doing a business, right, how do they put this into their business?
Yeah. So, oh, wow. Well, that's, I'm like, oh, there's 10,000 ways to do that, in my head. So what I'm going to say, the first thing is that I see business as a form of creating. Okay. I don't see business as a set of rules that you need to conform to. I mean, yes, there are some legal requirements, but generally speaking, I see business as a very creative endeavor. And I always have, since I was actually quite a young child, I was very fortunate that my parents had businesses. And so I was always exposed to that energy of creation. So for me, I don't really separate them. And it's funny in a way that you're saying, well, how do you do it for that? It's like, well, I do it in the same ways. And for me, one of the biggest things is allowing myself that space. So literally when I wake up in the morning, I run a few clearings to give me the space of me to actually allow my business to communicate with me. And I'm actually going to run a little short e-class on this starting on Monday, I think it is actually, about really talking to your business. Because when you talk to your business, it will give you information. It has an energy of its own. And it's the same with my writing, actually. So when I'm writing a book, I'm literally like, okay, cool. What are the words that need to be in this book? What's the topics we need to talk about today? And things will come to me. And it's this, when you're being first and doing second, you have an energy of receiving, where literally you're willing to not have to work everything out in your head and not have to work everything out by logic. You literally allow the information to come to you so that you can create what's truly possible. So that's the beginning of how I work with this in business. And for me, I always have a lot of projects going on, usually 30 to 50. Some of them never get finished, but I do have one rule for myself. It's funny when you were saying about finishing things earlier. It's like my rule is I have to finish one thing a month before I start anything new. So I can still work on multiple things, but I make a point of finishing one thing a month, because if I don't finish, what goes on is 10,000 unfinished projects, which doesn't really create your business very well, because you need to actually finish things so you can sell them, So that's a part of it. I mean, you're welcome to ask me any particular questions. There's literally 10,000 things I could say about this topic.
Well, thank you for, I think it's really quite funny because, I tell people to talk to their house, when they're doing a clearing, I tell them to talk to the landscape. But, I've never thought of talking to my business, and it makes perfect sense. Why wouldn't I talk to my business? It's an entity that I created. I breathe life into it every day. It's like not talking to my body. Where am I? Why didn't I get this? So that's a beautiful insight. I thank you very much. It's amazing that I didn't get that on my own. So that's a real insight for me.
Cool.
And also the idea that for you, you were blessed in a family upbringing where being creative was the name of a game, and business was just another avenue for you to be creative in. I think that I've never thought of it that way. I've always seen as, being creative as, I love to build things, and I love art. I love all sorts of things, but business is like academics for me. It's something I've had to learn how to do because it doesn't come by me naturally. So then that raises a question when you were talking about this. Well, why doesn't it? And then I started to think about it as you mentioned this, and that is because I've always been an intuitive. And when I was intuitive and was in the zone or being, nobody could understand me. I didn't understand the language of the planet. I didn't have a translator, and there was no way to fit in. So I spent most of my life trying to fit in, which is another addiction, for those that are intuitive and gifted, is stop fitting in. You're just fine the way you are. And in fact, it's your uniqueness of delivering who you are to the world that's going to allow you to just be and show up in the way that you're talking about, Lisa, so that you can really deliver your gifts through your business to the world. So it's sort of backwards yet again, right, from everything that I've learned or felt I had to learn in order to, quote unquote, survive.
Yes, and it's backwards from what most people think. And it's interesting, like when I first quit my corporate job, the one thing I knew was that I was going to create a different way of being in business that was actually kind to people, that would actually create more in the world, that would allow people to be who they are in business rather than cutting off all the beauty and the brilliance of them and narrowing it down to this tiny little piece, which is how you're supposed to do business. And I'm getting closer and closer to creating something that will really be able to step people through this in a way that taps into what they already intuitively know. Because, if you go back a couple of 100 years ago, there weren't these 10,000 rules about business. There was this really, amazing ways of people just trading and, finding what they needed. And there was lots of different things. And my sense is that we're going to move into a new model in the next sort of, 50 to 100 years where people will go back to actually doing what they love in business and making money from it with a lot of ease. And I don't mean quit your job and take up fishing because, you love fishing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm really looking at doing that thing that you're totally brilliant at that is going to allow you to create the life you would love to create. And I have a lot of joy in working with this with people because we get so, I guess, drawn into all of the rules and the expectations and the projections of what business is that we forget to ask, well, what would we like it to be?
I like that. Can we do a clearing on that? I love that. That's really, really good. Stop.
Yes. So all of the projections, expectations, rejections, judgments, and separations you have about business and what business is to you and what business should be and what you've learned it is, that don't allow you to choose what business is for you. If you want to create and destroy it all and return it all to sender, please, times a godzillion. From right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds.
I think you're starting to hint at something that I'm getting excited about as that's becoming more clear. Well, actually, it's been something I've been thinking about for a long period of time when I did the environmental work, and that part of it was around what I call organizational renewal. If it's true that we're alienated from our own inner nature and therefore from nature itself, if we did allow for that alignment to occur in our business, right? So we are aligning our personal intention with the planetary intent for growth and for, consciousness, and that we're all interrelated. And we allow that to be in those what we worked with in our business. And then we deliver that integrity, which is both socially and planetary consciousness alignment, to our customers and to our clients. Then I think we have a new triple bottom line that would be unstoppable. I think that if we learn how to do this, that we will turn the business model that exists on the planet on its head and allow for what you said, which is, that we can do what we love to do and be brilliant at it and succeed exceptionally well.
Yeah. that's really my sense of where we're headed. And I'm just really excited about the possibilities. You know, I was on the beach yesterday and I ran into a friend I hadn't seen for a couple of years who works very much in the corporate environment as a management consultant. And, you know, it was all about he's got too many emails and he can't reply to all this stuff and just all the, what I would call the normal problems of corporate business. And I was listening to him and then he starts giving me business advice. And I just looked at him and I said, well, you know, I think I'm going to actually leverage my business in quite a different way to that. And I gave him sort of a, you know, a bit more information about what I was thinking of doing. And it just couldn't even comprehend. There was just nothing in his world that could see what I was talking about as a possibility. And I think one of the really interesting things about the time we're in is we really are leaders. You know, and I mean, Access Consciousness calls it benevolent capitalism, what we're talking about, you know, and they talk about benevolent leadership. And what I look at is all the people at the moment who people are going, well, you know, all the people in corporate going, yeah, how can that work? It literally is, well, we can see a different possibility. And the more we bring that into the world in even the tiniest of ways, it allows all of the people still stuck in the old ways. And when I say stuck, you know, my friend wasn't that happy that that there was all these emails and all these things going on. He wasn't actually getting to do what he loves and what he's good at because of all the organizational stuff. And for me, it's like there's such a gift in just allowing people to know there's a different possibility.
Yeah, I love that. I really do love that, Lisa. I mean, you really have got it quite clearly about the new way of being on the planet and showing up and just being and allowing yourself to do that in a new corporate or a new business way of showing up. Very, very exciting. So we are getting near the end of this call. I can't believe it. I want to still play with all these ideas because they are so creative, and I think they're going to be very helpful for people to break loose from where they might feel themselves close to burnout or stuck or not moving ahead or being overwhelmed like I have been lately with all those emails you're talking about and all that endless to-do list. And, you know, just knowing that creative flow is going past me and there's a million things I could do, but taking the time to find out what does my business want me to do, particularly in order to succeed, and more importantly, to have fun and to allow my body to participate it fully as much as my brain, then I maybe have a hope of having some fun while I create a business. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
A whole new way of doing this and of being and playing. So you mentioned an upcoming workshop. When's that going to be?
Yeah, okay. So the free one that I was just talking about a few minutes ago, it starts on Monday the 11th. Our Australian Monday the 11th, okay? And it's just for 7 days and it's just via email. And if you go to www.creativitylab.tv/alchemy, ALCHEMY, you can sign up for that. And it will still be available afterwards as well if you're listening to this call a little later on. But yeah, it's a really fun thing. We've got about, I think, 350 people signed up so far to come and play because I really do want to explore this sense of, you know, communicating with your business and having a different sense of possibilities with it, because I know that it's going to create so much more for people in the future. I've been playing with it for a long time now, and every time I discover something new, it's just amazing how much easier everything in my business becomes.
Well, you certainly got me excited. I have to say you are a breath of fresh air. I needed to hear this at this time in my business, and it's going to allow me to do a whole new rethink. Actually, I know it isn't really a rethink. It's going to allow me to do, I think what it's going to allow me to do is do a great, big, huge mind dump and let it all go.
Yes. Awesome. And you know, that's sometimes a really cool place to start. I still do that. I have rolls of brown paper and Post-it notes, and I literally mind dump everything I can imagine. And then I just choose where I'm going to start fresh, you know, because it actually creates such a space when you do that. You can see it. And for us who are visual, the more creative people who are very visual, it helps a lot. Like I have a lot of it in my computer, but the moment I make it visual, it's like something pops out of you and it goes, here, me, pick me, I'm the place to start. And that allows ease with everything else.
So you just write it on ordinary paper, and then you go through it and ask what wants to be played with first. Is that how you do it?
Well, I mean, if I'm doing a brain dump, yes.
Yeah.
Day to day, I don't tend to write much down. I do have stuff like, in my sort of processes for all of my future projects and things, but I tend to go just more with an energetic awareness of, okay, where am I starting today? And sometimes it is about the bliss lines that are involved, but most often it's literally about the thing that actually really needs some attention, that if I give it attention will enable everything else to show up with a lot more ease. It's a very non-linear way of creating the business, actually.
So what's your book about? I mean, or are you doing a book? I mean, you're a writer, so how does writing come into it?
Yes. Oh, good. So I have actually 3 books underway. One is at the editors. It's called Stop Waiting, Start Creating, and it will be out within the next couple of months. I've also got another book called Conscious Creating, which is actually about all the Access Consciousness tools and how you can use that to create, or those tools to create, because they're awesome tools. And I would really love it to be really easy for people to just, slip into that world and find a lot of ease in moving forward with what they're creating. And then the third book is actually called Transforming Burnout into Brilliance. And that's very much a lot of my personal story of the burnout and how I went from being, a shell of myself to, really tapping into my brilliance and finding work that I love and, being able to make really great money out of it as well. So 3 books coming soon, which is fun.
So how does everybody get hold of you, Lisa?
Yeah, if they come to www.creativitylab.tv, that's a really great place to start. And you can also stalk me on Facebook and things like that if you want to. I'm pretty relaxed about that stuff. So yeah, you can find me lots of places, but between the website and Facebook, they would be 2 great places to start. And there actually is also on Facebook a Creativity Lab group that we have that's open to everybody. And it's a really great place to have some of these conversations that we've been having today around how you're creating and what you're creating and what else is possible, So yeah, people are very much welcome to join that as well.
Well, that sounds great. It sounds like I'm going to jump on and find you on Facebook. And as soon as you get one of those books on its way, I think you have one on its way now. Let's get you back on your book.
Oh, cool. That'd be fun. Thank you so much, Tyson.
Yeah, it's been great. So thank you ever so much for showing up. It's been great. And enjoy your time where you are. It sounds like you live in a beautiful place. And enjoy that beach. Wow, lucky you.
Yeah, I do. I get to the beach quite often. It's awesome. All right. Thanks so much for having me on the show today.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
For quality online wellness products, courses, and services, visit our sponsors, thewellnessstore.ca, and the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy located at thewellnessacademy.ca. To stay in touch, visit us at thewellnessshow.ca. And until next time, be healthy, wealthy, and wise.